other things. So let's take a look at this fire escape now. Just in continuation with the paint though, EPA has deemed that any fire escape older than 1978 is deemed to have lead paint. So you don't have to de-lead the fire escape, but there's precautions that you have to take. So that when you scrape and paint this fire escape, you must have an EPA renovator's license. That EPA renovator's license, if you don't have it, can have a $37,500 fine from the EPA associated with that. So, let's go on to the structural. If I was doing a Reg 4 single inspection and I was coming up here, you have to look at the entire fire escape system, so you can either start at the top, climb up and over, come down, or from down here you do your inspection, then you go up to the roof and do your inspection. That ladder must be properly attached to the roof on the other side. That's the gooseneck. Looking down, I'm looking for evidence of rust, because I got to make sure it's been painted. It has not, so that's my first indication that it's not going to pass the Reg 4. I'm looking for any internal rust. There's some internal rust here on this one. This would automatically kick this into a 5-year. And then I would see missing pieces. So there's a clip there, and there's a clip there, but there's no clip there. So the ladder is not attached at the very bottom here. Okay? I would look for things that would not allow me to visually verify. So because they covered all this connection here, that doesn't allow me to inspect. That connection is all covered. I need to visually inspect that. I got rust jacking happening in the back. I got a lot of soot and debris. So anytime I can't visually inspect that everything looks that it's been kept painted and structurally sound, there's nothing, no missing anything. So the fact that I have some wires in my way, these are obstructions, this would have stopped a 1 year. Again, I can't identify this connection, so this needs to be cleaned up, so we have to verify or load test going down. I definitely can see that some of these have popped. This one has popped. So that's an indication that the fire escape needs a 5-year, not a 1 year. So that would have stopped me from an inspection. Looks like it's leaning ever so slightly down. This is my ladder system. I'm looking at these connections here. As you can see, they've got a little bit of rust jacking happening on this one. Not a lot. No painting. You see where the water starts getting in. Treads have all this accumulation. And what does the accumulation do? Let me show you. This right here is all the accumulation. And that's accumulation. But you leave it there long enough, look, that's starting to become rust pack. And that rust jacking is not only pushing this clip, you can actually now see it's gone all the way through the clip. So it's only a matter of time before a tenant or a fireman steps on this tread, this one's going to give way. What about this one? Nope. Looks pretty good, but the fact that you're leaving and you're not stopping the water from accumulating and the dirt from accumulating here and here, this is where it's heading. Look at that. I don't know if you can see all that rust jack. So again, this would fail the 1 year. And I'm not giving an opinion on the 1 year. I'm just saying this really needs a 5-year, because there could be other things that I'm not trained on to do. This one's starting to become rust pack. See, clearly, rust pack. Okay, see that? This one doesn't have any rust pack, but it has debris. But this one has rust pack. Look at that. Okay, so this one here, showing starting to grow, rust pack is going to eat through these rivets. Okay? Alright, clips, debris, accumulating behind the angle clamp. As you can see here, this one's visible. So this is something I can see with the naked eye. Notice how they are cementing a lot of these connections shut, so we can't really verify. See that opening right there? Again, that would trigger a 1 year to become a 5-year. See how they're going to, it's only a matter of time before the cement guys are going to close that up. See the through bolts coming through the building? Those are all under a 5-year, not a 1 year. Okay? And a load test. The handle, loose wires, covers. Now this sometimes is there because, you know, they don't want people breaking in. But during construction, this is the second means of egress. So if they have a security issue, that's something else they have to resolve in a different way. But the last thing you can do is stop people in case of a fire from getting out. Okay? So as you can see, a lot of dirt, a lot of accumulation. Cables are the original cables. I would swap these out. Okay? You guys can see by how old they are just by looking at the tips. But this is probably original hardware. You have to grease these. Look how brown that is. Okay? Brown the cable is, but it's still past the 1 year. Okay, there's a 1 year. Signed 2018, November. November 2018. Okay? So here's the release mechanism. A lot of times you paint this red so that somebody knows that they have to put their hand outside here, grab it, pull it, and then it drops 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down. So under a 1 year, you're looking to come in here, verify that the window's open, and these windows have these little lock mechanisms here on either side, so that it only opens up about 6 inches. So those have to be removed because it has to be single action requiring no special knowledge. So a Reg 4 is you come out, Reg 4 annual, it's been painted, there's nothing out of the ordinary structurally, because that would have been covered under a 5 year. And you walk the whole entire system, you know, from the roof to the ground, the system looks like it's operating. And you verify that that door is not going to be an issue with the fire department, because that door opens up onto your fire escape ladder that you go down during an emergency evacuation. So again, it's pre-existing non-conforming. These are the things you're going to be looking for. But this fire escape does not pass inspection at this time, and it doesn't pass the 5 year. It's got some structural issues with the fire escape, and the rivets on this and all these connections are all original hardware. So we can clean these up and get it ready and verify that everything's good and ready for the load test, or changing all the hardware on this fire escape, including the flats, but not necessarily these. These can all be tested. It's all major structural. Okay? These need to be swapped out, that needs to be swapped out. You know, this needs to be swapped out, verification of that into the wall. You do that, you avoid the load test for the next 15 to 25 years because you're providing other evidence of strength. That's called the NFPA. The authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. Here's your chain. So these are the things you're going to verify under a Reg 4 annual. But there's certain things that will automatically trigger that it needs to become a 5 year, and it didn't pass the 1 year. Any questions, Fire Escape Engineers? 866-649-0333. So, this is why some of these pieces I actually use this in court cases.
That means every building in LA is going to fail.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Sucks for you.
They drop super fast.
It's unbelievable. Why you release it?
Have you, how many are going to pass? Have you failed one in LA?
Have I failed one in, on the Reg 4?
Yeah.
Not Reg 4, under a 5 year?
No, under a Reg 4.
We never do a Reg 4, because a lot of times when we get there, we ask them for their 5 year, they don't have a 5 year, say. Because a lot of times we'll call other companies and say, hey, can you go do a Reg 4 for us? Because we know it's already going to pass. Even though I have a Reg 4, I'm out of Boston, just easier for us to ship and give to the Reg 4 people their activities, because they're there for other things. They're there for other reasons. They're there for alarms and sprinklers and stuff. We're there for the 5 years, because the 5 year, I haven't had any fire escape pass unless it's a brand new one. But then we don't have to report to Reg 4. We report right to it's a 5 year. It's not even part of a 5 year. Not even part of Reg 4.
I mean, have you ever, so you're saying you pass that on or subcontract to somebody else? Or no, you just, if somebody asks you for a Reg 4 annual, you just,
right.
You say, we only do 5
When we
years.
had our office, when we had an office in Simi, we had an office in LA. Because it was not a lot of enforcement, that's why I was so excited when you said you took over and you started doing some stuff. I said, and then the code came in. Because prior to this is what was, there was no activity happening. There was no enforcement on a Reg 4 annual. Because people were being told that this is a problem, and they're like, dude, I got a letter, and you guys want to know who that guy is? Spectrum. Anybody know Spectrum? Out of Bellflower?
Spectrum Fire.
Yeah.
Spectrum Fire Protection. It doesn't matter, guys, it doesn't matter who he is, he's you. And all you have to remember is so that you and John and everybody can get back on the same mode, you say, listen, I have a 1 year once I have a 5. If I have 5 years, it's easy for me to do 1 year because everything I'm about to answer under an annual with an existing 5 is no liability. Every one of these that I'm doing annuals that have never had 5s, I'm stepping into liability land that John may not be aware of. So John, I can't do. So you guys actually trigger, and a lot of times, you don't have to explain this 5-year thing. Just walk into your 1 years. How you doing? Here for the 1 year. Oh, you haven't painted it at all, huh?
Looks like shit.
Looks like you got all kinds of rust jacking everywhere. You know, this has got to be a 5-year. Let me fill out my form. Check, 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 check.
Just go down. Where's that stated, the painting? And I understand it.
It's actually, it's in the code, it's under the, must be maintained.
Is it under a building code now?
Yeah, it's a building code.
Well, the maintenance is in the building code and the fire codes.
But
Yeah.
definitely not in the LA, it's not in state code, it's not in.
No, it is.
Not in California.
It is.
In fire code, I'm sorry, it's not in California
For
fire.
existing fire
or-
escapes, they, just like anything, it must be maintained.
Maintained. The
No,
word
not maintained, I'm
maintained is the
looking
word
for the word
painted.
painted.
Yeah, that's the word,
Okay.
maintained is the word painted. They must be protected against deterioration.
You're saying painted means.
The word maintained means painted.
Gotcha.
There, you guys are doing
So that's-
maintain, you guys are maintaining a fire escape. So when you maintain, you look, must be structurally sound, but must be kept painted, must be structurally sound. But as soon as you get beyond painted and you get into a structural sound question, you can't go beyond this. You need to bring in a third-party inspector to look at it for you and tell you just to what degree it's bad. Once he's got the structural out of the way, you can go back to your maintaining every year. Yep, you've been keeping it painted, looks good. Yep, all the structural, there's nothing out of the ordinary to me. You want to
And
make
we're
more
not gonna
comments
put
on
our,
that?
and we're not gonna certify it if it's not painted, because
Gotcha, okay.
it could fail in another year. It could, you know, so.
It's
I mean,
a
the code
definition
says-
though, it's,
yeah, I mean,
it's
you know,
by
like anything in the
saying
code, it's.
maintained,
Yeah.
again, under
The
the
code says
AHA.
maintained, and shall be maintained in good working order.
Right, okay.
Right.
So,
So
like
maintained-
anything in the code.
In good
it's
working order,
interpretation.
structural.
And what we're gonna put our name.
You have to know what the code
You wanna
means, but
make sure
let me give you guys one more point on this. A 5-year includes a load test. And we're about to we're in that 2-hour time break right now, and now we're gonna get into a truly 5-year stuff, including sandbag load testing and stuff. So imagine a 5-year, and we get a fire escape that has 50, 75, 100-year-old square head bolts and rivets, and all these connections are super tight. Guess what he still has to perform? A load test on it. He still has to put the sandbags or the cables on it. How comfortable are you that the building not only did a 5-year, they already loaded up with sandbags and waters and cables? Got it?
And we have to I mean, when we do our
That's the
inspection.
certification, is the load test.
We're also inspecting to make sure that it's safe to do a load test. In other words, you know, to us, it looks like you can't, I'm not comfortable saying that this can be load tested. It's gonna fail. Now, we don't know, it may pass, it might pass. But a lot of it is our opinion, knowledge, and belief, and our word that it's gonna be, that this is safe. And so, you know, it goes beyond sometimes what the code is saying, but you see what's out there. I mean, I'm not gonna certify that some of these things are.
And this is the most important part. During a 5-year, we find this, and we get this pushed on us a lot. The owner says, load test it anyway. I said, no. So if we identify internal rust corrosion, not external rust, internal rust, we're not allowed to load test it. Because now I'm putting my men at risk for load testing anything that has visible internal rust. And believe it or not, I can load test this rusted connection and it'll still pass. Today. What about tomorrow? So now, if I load test this today and I pass it, and tomorrow one of your guys get hurt, guess what? Guess who's gonna get sued and who's gonna lose? I'm gonna lose. Because I knowingly tested something with known corrosion inside. I'm not allowed to load test it. Now, I come in and I take out the rust, take out the connection, put a new bolt in there, right? And then I perform a load test on it. And it passes. A day later, it fails. Do I get sued? No, I don't get sued. I win because what failed? My test failed or the bolt that I bought from a manufacturer? So it's a product failure, a defective product. Now, that's why when you change all the hardware, if there is a failure, because I didn't perform a load test, because the NFPA says the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. You take these 50, 75, 100-year-old fire escapes, you change all the hardware, and then reconnect it back to the building, keeping the original ones, but you put a new Hilti bolt, 12 inches deep. And there's no load test, and then 2 years later, the huge accident occurs. Who gets sued? The bolt manufacturer. Because it was an act of God.
But then they're gonna tell you, they're gonna say, well, you got the bolts, you're supposed to inspect your purchase.
Well, that's a different thing.
They can,
I have never had a case on a certified fire escape, ever. The only case I have is when somebody doesn't clean up one of these. Now remember, if you get a fire escape that we do a 5-year and every one of these bolts, which is 50, 75, is in good condition, we've not completed our 5-year. The law says must be tested. So there's still, after a pre-load test evaluation and all yeses, what comes next? Sandbags, water, bags, or cables. Then what comes a year later? You guys. And when you do your annual, while you're doing the sprinklers, while you're doing your alarms, what do? You go out to the fire escape and climb up over the top and do an assembly test. You test it all the way to grade, whether or not it has a drop or cannon. Okay, so we're about to get into the, let me just show you one more, right? And this is again in Alexandria Avenue. Close by.
right here, 5 minutes.
Just did it yesterday. All right, so I'm going to show you that one. And
5:28.
you may recognize.
Put him on the spot.
By the way, there's a lot of guys out there taking advantage of you, believe me. They
Here we
want
are.
you not to do your job.
Los Angeles, Alexandria Ave. And what we have here is a fire escape that is being inspected for the 5-year inspection.
Looks nice.
And again, unlike the 1-year inspection, the 5-year inspection is truly a structural review of the existing fire escape system. So let's talk about, first of all, 2 things that are required to pass a Reg 4 1-year or a Reg 4 5-year. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So with that being the case, we're looking for things that would stop us from passing this fire escape structurally. So in regards to the paint, she looks good. At best, she needs a spot paint on the worked areas, but it looks like she's been painted in the past 10 to 15 years. Say 5 to 10. And so on the paint side, she looks good. It looks like somebody's been maintaining it. Now let's talk about the structural. The structural is we've got some issues that would prohibit the 5-year inspection from passing. That include that big hole in the side there that somebody used when they put this pipe through, and basically that hole is part of the structural of this beam, of this angle that goes into the wall, and it's embedded in the wall 8 to 12 inches deep, and probably picks up a plate on the inside. Corrosion. That alone stops the 5-year from passing, but also stops the 1-year from continuing because you would have identified a concern. So this is just a cement connection. On a 1-year, you have to walk this entire ladder, either examine it from the top, examine it from the bottom, make sure everything is good, make sure that the ladders are popped through, and make sure all the connections are in good. These are all original hardware, so every time you see square head bolts, that's an original hardware. That means this is 50 to 75 years old, if not 100, depending on the size and complexity of the fire escape and the age. Look at all that debris that's inside there. All that needs to be cleaned out and sealed. That connection into the wall needs to be re-cemented, repacked. And you've got cracked cement. Primarily on this whole job is cracked cement, and the ladder's an issue. So I don't know if this passed last year, but this fire escape would have not passed based on some of the things that I'm seeing here. Wouldn't have passed last year either. So connections in the corner, bolts are missing. I'm sure that it's important to see. Again, things that would automatically, see the bolt missing there? See the bolt missing here? These are things that prohibit a 1-year from continuing, and these missing bolts, this was missing too, that one's missing too. So what that would do is the 1-year guy would basically in his walkthrough identify that she has been kept painted, she is not structurally sound, there's some questions, and that will trigger a 5-year. He checks the doors to make sure people can still get out to the fire escape. A lot of these welded connections they put on here after the fact. And a lot of these welded connections have to be done by a certified welder, otherwise we have to test every one of these welds. Most of the time, and on all fire escape systems, everything's a mechanical connection. Fire escapes heat up and cool down in the summer, and they need to be able to move. Rivets allow things to move, rivets allow things to move. Welds do not, and if they're done badly, they can break and cause an issue. See all the accumulation on the treads? The treads are in good order, they're all riveted treads. But there's accumulation getting in. You gotta stop that, otherwise what happens is water's gonna come in from underneath and start bulging out your treads. I don't see that happening, but I do see the start of rust jacking gonna start happening up here if we don't seal these up with 35 to 50 year paintable silicone. You can see some cement work that needs to be done primarily at the ends, because this angle is bolted back to the brackets. Some cement work right there. So every floor has some cement work issues. Okay, coming down. As you can see, the corners usually accumulate a lot of dirt, a lot of debris. Those need to be dug out. If the bolt has been affected, it needs to be cleaned or replaced. Cement work needs to here, cement work needs in here. See that? So that Reg 4 annual would have triggered a 5-year by saying some things in question. You got to make sure all these systems are working. I'll try to move this. She's frozen. To a certain degree, the one down below doesn't even want to turn. One downstairs is missing a cap. And by the way, during the inspections of these, you must have a certified fire escape. So sprinkler systems can't be inspected unless the fire escape has been certified. It's an OSHA requirement that you have a certified working platform while examining standpipes. So it's catch-22, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. So again, treads, connections, cement work, primarily cement work on all these. Okay, coming down, treads, got accumulation on top. But again, they're in good order, the treads. Okay. But again, sometimes they forgot to pop in a bolt. Here's another bolt that's missing here. Okay, and again, this is just a pass failed inspection report. As you see all the accumulation in there, that rust jacks, and that's pulling the thing out of the building. The rust connection in the corner. Now this is an indicator of how long. None of the 1 year should have ever passed. Look, this is the cable that you use to pull up the ladder that's below. And that's a hydraulic ladder. I try to lift it, it is not working. So right now there's a life safety concern on that hydraulic ladder in that it's non-functioning. But this is an indicator of how long it's been. Because you use this to lift the ladder back into place when you drop it 2 times. So this is here, this is exactly what I found. Old rusty cable. So if this is not functioning, 1 year would have not passed this a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. But this is been here. I don't know if I'm looking for a sticker, I can't find one. So again, clips at the top are good, clips, so this is ready for the load test. And as you can see, water will start trying to accumulate underneath some of these and pop some of these rivets. You gotta check every single one. Verify all the connections on the treads. If anything is questionable, you just pop in a new bolt. And a lot of times you can just take out the rivet. 2 rivets, pop in 2 new 3/8 or pop in a 1/2-inch bolt in the middle as a reinforcer. And that eliminates the need, but otherwise these treads are ready for load testing. Okay, we've got some debris here. Can't have anything out here that would block the usage by firemen. Cracked cement. As you can see here, a lot of debris and smoking going on here. So this fire escape is active. This is also to tell me, I try to, there's no greasing going on, so I can tell you that this is not working. And if I try to lift it here, she's pulling on it. She's not lifting, so this is frozen. These are never able to be repaired. You have to cut these and put in a pulley system that allows you to use weights. And as you can see, this is all corroded. So the chances of this being functioning, I think this is a frozen ladder and needs to be dealt with immediately. Again, caps, cement, paint. She's been painted, so they keep painting it, but there's no verification that the ladder will drop.
Just keep it painted.
And the cement work seems to be the only issue. on this, because even though this is accumulating debris, it hasn't dropped any of these treads yet. If you leave it long enough, she will, okay? This is the rear-facing fire escape. Again, we're going to, got debris, cement, all this is all cracked cement. Got 2 of the chains here. You only need the top chain, you don't need the bottom chain. And you only need 1 chain. A lot of times, you don't need it. This is the law of every club, just that. So they might have put in these extras, but it's gotta be single action requiring no special knowledge. This piece here, this won't even turn. I'm trying to turn it. It won't even turn, and it's missing its cap. So obviously, if the fireman tried to use this, she'll start either leaking out of there, or I don't know if it's on or off. And again, cement work down there. This doesn't even roll. This is frozen here, and this is what you have to use to lift out so that this thing drops. And again, I can try to lift it here. See if it'll move. She won't. She's frozen. She'll wiggle, but she won't go up or down. So that's a lot of safety concern. Got some pieces of debris left over, cement cracked, it's all cement cracked. Okay, same thing. And then obviously there's a way out on either side. So fire escape does not pass inspection. Any questions, fire escape engineers? 866-649-0333. Does not pass the 1 year, does not pass the 5 year.
I think the customer's gonna have a heart attack.
It's too expensive.
Or maybe he's gonna sell, he's gonna say,